Hi, it's Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Well, it's Wednesday, so it's time for a midweek what's happening in the workshop video. Well, I haven't been in the workshop today. I've actually been on a little road trip down to Foxton, the other side of Cambridge, to pick up this Kia Venga. It's the one I did a little video on earlier in the year when we had a little bit of starting problem, but since resolved itself, there's been no problem since. The family actually kept it, although I actually sold the girl who owned it, my customer's daughter, actually owned it. I sold her my mother's old Peugeot 206 that a friend of mine had had for a long time, which is going well. And they kept the car basically to spare, and it's been sitting on their father's drive for, got to be 6 months now, probably. 5 months, 6 months. And he decided that they don't really need it anymore. It's just been sitting around, hardly been used. So it's time for it to go. So he wanted, obviously, me to get it off the drive, and he wants me to see whether or not it'll go through an MOT easy enough. It has actually got 3 months MOT on it. I don't suspect there's going to be any major issues getting it through another one. I mean, all the brakes were done a few years ago, and had a clutch a couple of years ago, and bits and pieces, and it starts and runs fine. I mean, the only thing that did happen, of course, is inevitably sitting around the battery went flat a few times. And I think the battery now has completely given up. As usual, the tires have gone flat and the spiders have moved in and the cobwebs and various creatures have been here, there and everywhere, which is always the case. And little mouse has decided to eat the fiberglass insulation panel from around the battery, and I can't imagine what a rodent would like eating that for, but oh well, seems to have enjoyed it. If that's what you like, good luck to you. The car's done 136,000 miles now. It's got a few minor war wounds here and there, dinks on the bumper and stuff, and a little bit of combat damage on the bonnet here. But, it's 2012, so can't really complain too much. 1.6 diesel, so very economical. The only MOT advised last year was actually a small oil leak on the turbo pipe, which was actually due to the bottom of the intercooler falling off. The aluminium had actually corroded between the crimping and the core or centre part, and it basically popped itself apart. So that was quite an easy fix. We did that about 8-9 months ago now. So that's the only advice that would have been carried over from last year, but has now been repaired. So I'll have a look around it. So can't really see any particular reason why it should be a major problem. Give it a little clean up and remove some of the nests from various places, and yeah, it's a typical of a car that's been sitting around basically. It has been on hard standing on a driveway, so it hasn't been sitting on gravel or dirt or anything, so the brakes are a little bit rusty, but they'll soon clean up with a good run up the road. So that was a good little adventure today. And while I was down there, it's a good friend of mine and good customer I've known for many years. Helped him out with a few plumbing jobs today, and had a bit of lunch and mulled the day over. And I had a nice little drive back through Cambridgeshire. Came a slightly different route back today. So some of the villages. I actually had a little trip through the lovely little village of Oakington. Part of the old airfield was, and my father's actually stationed there when he was in the Air Force. He was actually crash crew for, I think it was 4 years there, and I thought I'd have a little ride through there. And of course it's a housing estate and business park now, but I thought it was nice to have a little ride through. I was in no particular hurry and sort of enjoyed the day. Trusty old transit was absolutely fantastic. Doesn't matter how hot it is, it just simply soldiers along. It never gets warm. Sits on the temperature gauge in one place, you're on the motorway and pulling hard, no problem. This Kia is actually the first longish car, or sort of medium-sized car I've had on here since I did the body, and it's fantastic. Because since I moved the winch forward and the cab protection rail forward, I've gained about sort of 6 inches of car length on there, and the difference in the way that truck drives now with that move forward or vehicle move forward is so much better. It really has transformed it. So pleased with that. So trusty old girl. Get you where you want to go. It ain't going to be quick, but she's going to be reliable. And it's a good old thing to drive. So it was a really enjoyable day out, that was. Anyhow, on the engine stand here, I've got a Ford 1.4 Puma engine, about year 2000. It's actually a spare engine, or it's going in a car, for a customer of mine. This is going to be overhauled as a replacement. I don't know the mileage on this unit 'cause it's one that's been sitting around a while, as you can tell by the sort of fungus on the aluminium and whatnot. So I haven't got all the external components. I've got the timing belts and covers and all the bits and pieces and the flywheel. Well, I think this has been a well looked after engine because there's no sludge here in the breather at all. The oil, a little bit of oil that's in it's clean. A nice pink original full coolant in, original water pump, and somebody had put a cam belt kit on it not that long ago, and it was all genuine Ford. So pretty impressed with all that. I popped the top off just to have a sort of look inside, and you can see it's absolutely spotless. Everything's shiny, gleaming clean in there. And likewise, the inside of the cover, even around the breather, is absolutely perfect. So I don't think it's done a great deal of miles. Spark plugs came out, were all clean and showed equal combustion on them. And I did have the starter motor, so I hooked it up and did a cursory compression test. And there's a couple about 170, 180 and one well over 2. So bearing in mind she's been parked for a while, the compressions are still good. Well, you see there's no leaks from the rear oil. That's an interesting one. The rear oil seal, that's better. And the rest of the block's very, very clean. There's a tiny little bit of oil here. In fact, a little bit of that is coolant. When I took the pump off, it ran down. But no, it's just a very clean engine, really. So I should pop the head off, pop the sump off, pull the pistons out, have a look at the rings, because we all know how these are prone to the rings sticking into the pistons, or into the grooves and burning oil. And then I think it'd be straightforward enough. This one, being the earlier version of this engine, has a different cam cover called like the silver top. The others have a black top, like the bigger Z-Tex. And this one's actually got, you can't really see it, but the tappets on these have actually got shims in the top. And they're not the whole tappet has to be changed. You can just replace the shims, which I've actually got a few of. So that does make life a little simpler rather than having to mix and match buckets and or grind them like I had to in the last one. Well, so on this gloriously warm week, it's giving me something to get into. I'll start pulling out parts maybe a bit later on or tomorrow. And I shall be digging into the Kia, investigating that. I think I'll give the poor old thing a bit of love and a bit of a clean first of all, and evict a few creatures and give it a run up the road. So otherwise, it's been a successful Wednesday. Another little job I've been working on yesterday. This is a spare power steering rack for my transit. I have a suspicion mine may have a small leak around the top here. There's an oil seal in here and a bearing, and they actually sit on the vehicle at this sort of quite bizarre angle, and the coupling goes sort of up, back and back because the rack's quite tucked under the floor. Fairly simple rack to change, usual tie rod ends, simple to get off coupling, and just 2 bolts. Now, as long as somebody put the bolts in that way up, you're fine. If they put them in from the top, the sump is actually sitting over the top, and you have to jack the engine up. Mine's actually had an exchange rack at some point. It came in the vehicle, and I got the vehicle at 88,000, so for some reason they changed it. It seems to be functioning fine. Can't really say there's any major problem with it, but I just noticed a bit of fluid, and there's actually a plastic cover here. I'm going to clean it off and see how bad it is, and I haven't noticed any loss of fluid, and I check it every week, so I know it's not leaking. I may have got a little carried away here, as you can see, cleaning this up. This actually come off a vehicle that's done about 75,000 miles. It's actually off a 2-litre twin cam van, so we hadn't done a lot of work. A friend of mine actually bought the van to take the petrol engine out to put in his diesel transit to get around the dreaded London low emission zone when it came out. So say these old transits do go well with the 2-litre 8-valve twin cam in. It's pretty impressive. Nice easy swap really. When you've got all the bits, you have to swap engine and gearbox and wiring and stuff. The ECU in bits and pieces, but we did it in a couple of days, and boy does she go well. And the fuel economy actually is not a lot different from the DI. And he kept all the spares, and when he got rid of his truck a few years ago, he gave them to me. And you know me, I won't throw away good quality original components. So after the transit clutch saga with allegedly good components turning bad, I'm not going down the route of fitting an exchange rack. I will be fitting this one, and if necessary I'll repair the one I take off. They're not that overly difficult to repair. You undo the nut here, take the slipper pad out, pull the pinion through, and you've got obviously your control valve in there and a couple of seals. There's a couple of bearings in there. That's your adjustment for the damper on the rack. And then, of course, in here you've got the piston on the rack here, the seal each end, and your two fluid control pipes. So they're not vastly complicated things internally. It's mostly a couple of hydraulic seals and a few O-rings. So I'd certainly repair it rather than replace it. I may not have to fit this yet. It may just be it may not be a problem. I just noticed it's a little wet around the top here, and I'll clean it off. And if it's only a minor accumulation, I'll leave it. So that's what I've been up to with that. And there's a few other bits and pieces left from the plumbing job. Turn them into scrap. So that's what I've been up to today. So I'll be tinkering with the engine and tinkering with the Kia. And if anything develops interesting on the Kia or the engine, I might bring you along, see what's happening. Anyhow, it's enough of me waffling on about not an awful lot. So thanks very much indeed for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And bye for now.